Hiring managers. What is the biggest red flag on a resume? I saw some guy who HSD posted in the "have you been arrested" part put the reason he was arrested. Killed a man by dropping a boulder on his head. Checked it out online. And he was telling the truth. When I was about 14 to 15-ish, my dad kinda pushed me to apply for a translating job at Sega. Good English. I needed a CV to apply, so my dad helped me make one. He told me to put my favorite games on my resume. And my dumbass not only agreed, but answered honestly. Without a single Sega game on the top 5 list I made. This man is an HR manager of 20+ years. So I'm reading a lot of the same ideas and frustrations over and over here. What is someone supposed to do when they are dealing with a work gap? Do they tell the truth and hope it works out, or do they ignore it and hope to be hired? I had to leave my dream job at the year mark due to health reasons I can't disclose to an employer, and I'd like some direct guidance on what to do in order to be hired again now that I have a better handle on things. Edit. I'm pretty blown away by all of your comments and really solid advice. I hope all benefit from seeing that there are so many of us living through this topic right now, and that there are ways back into good, meaningful employment. To the hiring managers and hiring professionals who stop to advise and assist. Thank you. Your insight is invaluable at a really hard time for both myself and many others. When people apply through Facebook Jobs and it pulls the info from their profile, you end up with shit like, "Went to the University of Life," or "I only work for ME and no one else," as a headline on their application. It's hard to take that seriously. A very unprofessional email is definitely one. You see some insane emails. I knew someone who got an email address that had Big Daddy in it. Edit. For anyone who needs a professional email address. Personally, I find any combination of your first, middle, last names, initials, and birth date are all acceptable. In fact, any numbers but 420, 69, etc. and 123 is fine. It's absolutely worth having a very bland email for anything where you don't want your email to make a big impression. Illegal things, professional things, and emailing your grandma because she doesn't like text. Don't email your grandma from your booty slayer email. Edit 2. As some have mentioned below, 666 is also not a great number to add. And if your birth date happens to be a number on this list, pay special attention to how you format it. For instance, if your birthday is 420, format that along with the year as something like 042099. The person looking at your application will probably understand and not think it's a joke. Edit 3. I did a bad job typing that. I meant any number but 420, 69. And as somebody added 666. And 123 is fine. I typed that first thing when I woke up with no coffee. Random numbers are okay. 123 is okay. Does anyone have any advice for the people who have never had a job? If this phrase is written anywhere, my chickens have come home to roost. I once got a resume that listed under his awards section, champion and master of the Chug and Tug, at some dumb-ass ASU fraternity whose name I can't remember. I'm still not 100% certain what the fuck that is, but I know I didn't want it. Military service. U.S. Army wife. Lieutenant Colonel. Edit. I feel I should clarify. I'm not a hiring manager. This story is from one that I know. I've had experience dealing with dependa, though. Listing every single accomplishment from high school and or middle school. When you've been out of high school for 10+ years. Had a guy list every part he got in a musical play, sports he played, with scores, clubs he was a part of, etc. All of these dated from at least elementary school on. The man was 50+. The job had nothing to do with any of these items. I once had a guy submit a resume saying that he could not work with women or speak to any woman due to religious reasons. I'm all for being tolerant of other people's beliefs, but this was for a customer service job. If you can't interact with women at all, then maybe this wasn't the kind of job he should have been applying for. I used to do the hiring triage for a university library, gearing up for the fall semester. I'd have to read through 500+ applications. My record was in the 750s. For a usual 30 hires, used to get some terrible ones. The most common were 1. L33TTXTSPK 2. All lowercase 3. All caps 4. 3-word answers to multi-part questions. 5. No federal work-study award. Not an indication of a bad applicant. But we were clear up front that we couldn't hire anyone without it. Simply couldn't afford it. Since a student with WS cost us about 1/3 what an hourly student would. 6. Terrible availability. Also not an indication of a bad applicant. But if you say you're only available for 2 hours Tuesday, Thursday, and every other Wednesday, don't expect a call. 7. Ignoring the questions about putting things in alphabetical or numerical order, doing them but obviously not reading the directions. Ascending versus descending order. Or, to a lesser extent, getting them wrong. Normally, calling to check up on your application was an immediate bump up to be forwarded on for further consideration. Assuming availability and WS checked out. But if you had your parents call. Came in one day. I worked 4 p.m. - 2:30 a.m. to a blinking light on my phone. Indicating voicemail. Checked it. Several messages. First message. 8:30-ish am. Was from an angry woman demanding I call back by 12 to explain why we hadn't hired her son. Second message. 10:30-ish am. Same woman. Snarling that I hadn't called. And that she would have my job because her son had work study. Therefore we legally must hire him. Lol. No. Because he wants to work in the library. Third message. 11-ish am. From my supervisor. Wondering if I could find the son's application. As she'd gotten an angry voicemail from the mother. And when she looked in my files, she hadn't seen it anywhere. Other normal messages followed. Well, since this woman demanded I call before 12, I was all gung-ho to call her at 11:45 p.m. to explain my work schedule to her, and that I couldn't legally discuss her son's application anyway. But I figured I should talk to my supervisor, and at least warn her of this plan. Turns out, when the woman called again, around 2 p.m., she got forwarded to my supervisor, who had remembered the internal online database of applicants I'd created for her and the other hiring supervisors to check when I was out. Using that, she discovered that the kid's file wasn't in my desk because I'd initially rated him fairly well. Worth another look. Armed with that info and notes on his file, she told Mommy Dearest what was going on. Damn. I wish I could have seen that woman's face when she was told we didn't hire her son because he never called us back when we contacted him for an interview. Doesn't stop me from hiring anyone. But changes things up when someone says they speak another language. If it's Spanish, you'll be interviewed in Spanish. Sometimes that goes very poorly for the applicant. Not an employer. But failed miserably to get a high school job. I thought I was doing everything right. I mentioned previous volunteer experience, work ethic, and always came dressed in a button-up shirt, slacks, and a tie for interviews. Or even asking about a job. After a year of getting turned down by Taco Bell, KFC, and really any good high school job, I found the issue. Under the previous criminal charges section I put assault and battery. 17-year-old me had a loose grasp on the legal system and didn't realize that getting arrested for a fight is not the same as being charged with a felony. I had been arrested on an assault misdemeanor, but never charged. Unfortunately, that revelation didn't come until I applied for military service and was told my felony charge was a permanent disqualification. I once interviewed a woman for an IT job. Me. What do you find most challenging about your work? Applicant. Chinese people. To this day, I still can't believe someone would give that answer in a job interview. I was a manager at a trampoline park when I was 16/17 and did all the interviews since the majority of the applicants went to the same high school as me. There was a guy that was in his late 30s who had hardly any job experience and a bachelor's degree. IIRC, it was literature related. His age was kinda weird since most the staff were in high school, college. But having a degree completely caught me off guard. Asked him why he wanted to work minimum wage when he had a degree. He explained that he was going to be a teacher but they wouldn't hire him because of his criminal history. He proceeded to tell me he had sexually assaulted a child. He was applying for a job at a kid's trampoline park. Looked on the cameras before he left since he gave me a really bad feeling and saw him taking pictures of kids. He left before I could confront him. So I gave his resume and a hard drive with the entire recording of his visit to the local police department. Edit. Obligatory thank you for the award. Edit 2. Thank you everyone. If you have any questions I'd be happy to answer, but it might take a bit for me to get through everyone. I interview an Indian guy who had Surfing the internet and shooting pistols as his hobbies. I wanted to hire him on the spot to be our wild card.